Get ready to laugh when comedian Anthony Jeselnik comes to the State Theater on Saturday, April 20th. 420, baby. Tickets for both the early and the late show are on sale now. For more info and to get your tickets today, head over to KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
It's 9 to noon. I'm Alec Lewis. I am the Vikings beat writer for The Athletic, and then today I'm Paul Allen. I look nothing like him. My hair doesn't have as much gel.
You got to get the flow going. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not as funny. It just doesn't. Paul, I don't know why.
You're not peeking at people over the bathroom stalls.
No,
at least I hope not.
That's a you comment.
Yeah. You're not touching people's sides, asking if they're a puppy or a baby.
That is his thing. But he is the man of the people, and so it's an honor to be here in the place of him today, alongside Max Fuller, who has been charting me through this journey. It's been a fun one. I have a longtime guest of 9 to noon, one of PA's favorites, I know, and someone who's been really kind to me since I got on the beat. Her name is Courtney Cronin. She covers the Bears for ESPN. You can follow her on Twitter at Courtney R. Cronin. Courtney, can you hear me? How are you?
Alec, I'm great, and you are doing an awesome job. Just a little bit of the word of advice for you.
Thank you.
You know, with PA and his hair, like, I don't know if it's gel. I don't know if he just, gets a perm every other week. I don't know if you're ever going to get to that level, but, you might want to look into it because it's pretty noticeable, and it's a pretty successful trait of his. And I'm with you on that. I don't know if any of us can get there.
No, it is good to hear you say you don't know what it is, because I've wondered, and I've never asked him because I just don't. I mean, I don't, that's a weird thing to ask, but he would probably ask something like that.
But it's Paul. There's no boundaries.
Right.
You could ask him anything.
That's correct. And as far as me adopting that style, I don't know. I kind of like my hair for as long as I have it, so I will see. But no, it's good advice. Courtney, you know this, I think. I don't know if I've told you this, but I mean, when I was in high school, I've followed your work for a long, long time. I remember you lived in Mississippi, and this is an indication of how much work you've put in to get to the place that you are. But you were doing like a docu-series on a highly touted basketball prospect, Malik Newman, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And part of me wonders, how great you've had a heck of a journey to get to where you are, and it's very impressive as someone who knows what it takes. What do you love most about what you do, and how much do you think that's allowed you to have the arc that you've been able to have?
Well, first, thank you so much for dating me there, Alec.
No,
we were in high school.
Come on. Sorry.
I was in my early 20s when I was down in Mississippi, and it was an incredible journey for me to begin down there. The project you're referring to is this 3-year docu-series that I did on Malik Newman, who, number one prospect in the class of 2015, was one of the stars of the 2018 Final Four with Kansas. He initially went to Mississippi State and then ended up transferring to Kansas to play with Bill Self's squad. And it was such a cool experience because, we never wanted this thing to be hoop dreams, but we wanted it to be an authentic look into the life of somebody who experiences something that none of us do, which is getting letters and calls and texts. And obviously the recruiting rules have changed, but he was the belle of the ball for every college coach and every major program in that recruiting cycle. And that was, most people remember, that was Ben Simmons here as well. Jaylen Brown was in that group. And it was cool for me in the young part of my journalism career to get an inside look at how life functioned for somebody who was constantly in the public eye at 15, 16, 17 years old. So, it was that will still, to this day, be one of, my favorite things I ever did in my career, because of the relationships that came out of that, but, work that you're really proud of. And doing it kind of as a one-man band down there in Mississippi when we didn't have all the resources to put together, this 3-year docu-series, we made it work. And it was truly a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and the access there, I was spoiled with it because you don't, as you know, Alec, with teams in the NFL and any other pro sports, you typically don't get access like that. It's usually Omaha Productions putting on the receiver show that we're going to see in a couple of months with Justin Jefferson, the quarterback show we've seen, where they've got multi-person camera crews and millions of dollars invested into their product, which I had none of.
No, and it's. I mean, I was thinking about it because I just remember like the quality of the video, and I also think like you see you on and people listening see you on around the horn. I've listened to you for a while, but you were putting in the work kind of away from anybody recognizing it at the time. So it's very impressive and always interesting to hear those stories. What is you're in Chicago now. You cover the Bears day to day. You've been around this cycle, this this arc to picking number one, and have been as invested as anybody. Just what is the vibe right now with what is probably going to happen in terms of Caleb Williams at number one at the end of April? What is the vibe in Bears land?
It stinks that you have to wait 10 minutes till your pick is called because, teams turn in their card whenever they want to. They could wait up till the final second. They could do it 2 seconds in. But we're still going to be waiting that 10 minutes of time where they're going to show Caleb Williams, whether he's in the green room. I don't know what his draft plans are, but I assume he'll be there in Detroit, only for the inevitable to play out, which is him to go to Chicago. Look, they're not trading out of number one. I think that ship has sailed. Even if they were to try to move back a spot or two, I do not believe, from what I've heard, that that's in the cards for the Chicago Bears. But it feels all but inevitable at this point for the Bears to take Caleb at number one and to make him their next guy at quarterback, because it didn't work out with Justin Fields for a multitude of reasons, and them getting that out of the way so there wouldn't be the speculation on April 1st of whether they are going to have a 2-quarterback system, for how long, 2 guys in the building, when might they trade Justin. Ripping the Band-Aid off was a pretty big thing for this franchise, and to do it at a point where they had all this extra time to really dive in to Caleb Williams and learn about him, spend a lot of time with him at his pro day and throughout that week. He's on his top 30 visit in Chicago this week, along with some of the other prospects that the Bears are bringing in. It's a new day down here, and I think that all that's happened in the last month, that you kind of get whiplash from it, because we're at the Combine, just under a month ago today, where they started to put the trade for Fields in motion, and then everything that's happened over the last couple of weeks, we arrive at this point now where the team is ready to change course and ready to bring a quarterback into a situation that is kind of foreign for number one picks to walk into when a team finishes 7-10 the previous year and actually has the right infrastructure in place to set a guy up for success.
We're talking to Courtney Cronin. She covers the Bears for ESPN. You can also view her on Around the Horn.
Or on the Golden Girls, apparently, since she's so old.
No, it's terrible. I did not mean that at all. You can follow her.
I hope that you brought that same energy to your interview with Johnny K. That's all I'm going to say.
He kind of started it out. Like, he was trying to put me down for being so young, I think. I do my best. What was your reaction to the return from the Fields trade? I'm just curious, as someone who followed kind of the storyline of what the market may or may not have been for him.
Yeah, the team was surprised that they couldn't get anything more than a 6th-round pick next year, which is a conditional pick that could become a 4th. But that shouldn't have been surprising to other people around the league, because the league told us that Tuesday, or whatever, like before free agency started, when Kirk found his new home, when Russell Wilson signed with the Steelers, when Baker Mayfield stayed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we didn't see, the big name quarterbacks outside of those three. We didn't see anything else beyond that point. And then all of the bridge quarterbacks were moving around, and guys who were backups, throughout their career. Sam Darnold going to Minnesota on a 1-year, $10 million deal. The price for Fields, because what was being asked, which was a day 2 pick and then some conditional pick in the later rounds, that was too high. And for a guy that still has a lot of unknowns surrounding him, whether he can elevate as a passer, whether, a new offense can get the most out of him the way that Chicago did not, teams aren't going to overpay for that. So I'm not personally surprised by any stretch, considering the teams that I was talking to throughout the week leading into the trade on March 16th, that the Bears were holding firm on where they wanted to get compensation, what level of compensation they felt they could get for Justin Fields, and that other teams viewed him as a backup. And the majority of teams that, there were 6 in total, including Pittsburgh, that came with offers, some better than others. I know it sounds like lip service to some, but Ryan Poles and the Bears really did want to send Justin Fields to a good spot where he'd have a chance to contend while still also getting the best compensation they could for themselves. There was one other offer, from what I was told, that might have been another late round pick, might have been this year, but like not all that much different in terms of like the overall compensation. But they wanted to send Fields to a place where they're not going to look like the bad guy at the end of the day, considering they are giving up on him after 3 years because they don't have any more time. Like that's the thing that people forget. This is not the organization, or rather not the front office and coaching staff that drafted him initially. When last time around in 2021, the Bears were trying to save their jobs, Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace, in trading up to get him. Was he put in an unfortunate situation? Yeah, but sometimes life isn't fair, and the circumstances of that were not something that he was equipped to rise above with the talent that was around him and the talent that wasn't around him. And this was just the best way that they could clear the deck for the new quarterback coming in and to start year 3 and really, really make strides now that the two hard years of the rebuild are out of the way.
Max Fuller and Alec Lewis filling in for PA and Nordo 9 to noon, talking to Courtney Cronin. You can follow her on Twitter /X at Courtney R. Cronin. Follow her as 9 to noon does. Courtney used to cover the Vikings beat, and from a fan's perspective, it's kind of always a cloudy, rainy day here. We're a very pessimistic bunch. People are already poo-pooing on the idea of JJ McCarthy, and he's not even a Viking yet. So we tend to be very pessimistic as a fan base. From a fan's perspective, well, what's the word going around the Windy City right now? Are people expecting Caleb Williams to be the savior? Are people kind of already like how Vikings fans are, like, the Bears have never had a good quarterback, and then they think he's not going to pan out? Well, how are the fans feeling about the Caleb Williams pick?
Well, I mean, if they could have had the Vikings' luck at quarterback for whatever people want to think about Kirk Cousins and his one playoff win in Minnesota, that's stability that a lot of franchises lack, including the one that I cover. So, kind of careful what you wish for there in terms of what the fan bases think, and especially with this new, this is the most pivotal draft that the Vikings have had in a very long time. It's going to get a new quarterback. How high do they have to get JJ McCarthy? Can they not give up the farm and move up to get him? It's neither here nor there, because at some point they're going to have to do it because they don't have any other choice. Anyways, in terms of Chicago, I do think that there's still a portion of this fan base that has unrealistic expectations and has moved the goalposts for Caleb Williams because they were so dead set on the organization keeping Justin Fields and giving him a 4th year, because they've been locked into the flashes, the 80-yard runs that he's able to rip off when he gets outside of the pocket because he has speed that's not like other quarterbacks that we've seen. And he does a lot of really good things, but it wasn't enough for the Bears to hold on to and, frankly, risk other people's jobs to stick with Justin Fields. So there's that portion of the fan base that has placed these insane expectations already on Caleb Williams, and it's the same portion of the fan base that's upset about his painted nails and his pink phone case, and maybe the video that's going around right now. Does he have lip gloss on? Does he not have lip gloss on? I don't know. I frankly don't care. Can he play quarterback? That's like the number one question that people should be asking themselves. But there is that excitement that Caleb's not coming into a team that finished 2-15 last year. That's the Panthers. That's their pick. It's much different knowing that you have a better chance to get off the ground running and quickly with a young quarterback than you would if this was any other circumstance. Now, C.J. Stroud is the anomaly in all of this because of what he was able to do in his first season in Houston. Those should not be the same expectations I think anybody with any of these rookie quarterbacks should place on the new guy coming in. But for Bears fans who have not, literally no one, myself included, and even someone as young as Alec, no one's seen a franchise quarterback in the city that was drafted and developed Grossman by this team. That just doesn't happen. That hasn't happened in 7 decades, which is a strange place to be in considering how long the Bears have been around, which I think does yield the excitement from the majority of fans who are not, still bitter about the Justin Fields trade, that the team is heading in the right direction.
We're talking to Courtney Cronin here on 9 to Noon. Courtney covers the Bears for ESPN. She used to cover the Vikings. She dabbled a little bit in that for the first part of that answer. And I'm going to, Courtney, finish you with this because I'm curious. You left in 2022, and I remember when I first got here, one of my first things was going back and listening to Kwesi Adofo-Mensah's first press conference and you asking him a question, and I think Kevin O'Connell, the head coach, a question. And you obviously left at that time, so I've not been around for the start of this regime. But from afar, and I know just because you were involved, and you're still in the division, you've definitely followed and are aware of the path that this team has taken for 2 years. I mean, what is your perspective just from afar of kind of the way this first 2 years has gone with this new regime, given what the ownership and the Wilfs wanted to maybe happen and change they wanted to invoke here in Minnesota?
Yeah, I know a lot of people looked at the team kind of sideways when the first words that are uttered out of Mark Wilf's mouth, and then, of course, Kwesi and Kevin reiterating competitive rebuild. And on the surface, it didn't seem like it was something that was going to work or yield the sort of sustained success that they had hoped for. But, if relevancy is something that this organization wants, it got it. And I think that they did a really solid job doing everything that they said they were going to do from the 2022 through the 2023 season, and then deciding that they wanted out from under the contract constraints that come with signing a Kirk Cousins to another deal. And what we saw they got from Atlanta, I don't blame the Vikings for not paying that price for a quarterback at 36 years old coming off of an Achilles tear. Again, I still do believe you have to look at the Washington example. They've had 12 different quarterbacks play since Kirk left there as a free agent to come to Minnesota. You hope that you're not in that spot, but they also didn't have the draft capital to go up and get potentially their next guy the way that the Vikings are hoping that they're in position to do. But I've got to say I was really impressed by what they did in free agency.
Wow.
Signing a lot of really good players. When I covered free agency there, there would be one or two because of, where their resources were tied up financially. But I really liked the Jonathan Grenard outside of the injuries. And it's just because, if you're looking at it realistically, Danielle Hunter was never going to stay in Minnesota for a multitude of reasons. But I thought that was a savvy pick.
Agreed. Right
then and there. Blake Cashman, Andrew Van Ginkel, and they've got some good depth pieces too. With Aaron Jones coming in, the day after the Packers say goodbye, he signs there for $1 million more than he would have made with Green Bay. And, some of the additions on defense too in the secondary was Shaq Griffin, the two defensive tackles they got. I was really impressed by how they navigated free agency for the first time, not having to navigate around a Kirk Cousins contract. And who knows what that means as far as setting themselves up for the draft. We know that quarterback is the top priority, but myself, like everybody else in Minnesota and elsewhere, we're all wondering when the Justin Jefferson extension is coming. So, that to me is center stage no matter what time of the year we're in until it happens.
You're exactly right. And it'll be interesting to see ultimately if that or when that happens, what that number looks like. Courtney, thank you so much for hopping on. It was last minute. Wanted to have you. So much respect for what you've accomplished. I know the youth thing we can joke about all the time, but literally I remember being at that time watching what you were doing in Mississippi, holy cow, this person has a lot of talent and ambition, and to see what you've done is pretty cool. So I thank you for hopping on, and I'll work on the hair gel kind of, but probably not. But thank you, Courtney.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Alec.
You're listening to 9 to Noon. We only have 40 minutes remaining, man. I know this time is flying.
It flies by, right?
Yeah.
At the beginning, you're like, how the hell am I going to fill 3 hours? And then by the time noon comes, you're like, I could have did 3 more.
Yeah, first segment, man, I was going to crawl underneugh the table and just hope that, play some Chat GPT, Alec Lewis or something.
Play some best of. Yeah. Oh, BA came back. Look at that.
Yeah, exactly. The April Fool's joke's over, please. We're going to finish out the show with Matt Miller, who covers the draft for ESPN, and we're going to go major draft to finish. He did a 7-round mock draft. I believe he had the Vikings trading up for Drake May. So I'm going to hit him pretty hard, grill him as best I can, and try to figure out what the Vikings are doing Thank you, Max Fuller, for helping me along this ride. It is 11:20 in the morning on Monday. This is 9 to noon. Thank you for
more
listening.
segments to go. You're doing great.
My name is Alec Lewis. I am the Vikings beat writer at The Athletic in hosting for Paul Allen is his name, the guy with the best hair of all time, apparently.
I mean, close. I would like to say I'm in the conversation as well.
Honestly, Max, I mean, I don't know, Max, I don't know if you ever played NBA Street.
Oh, yeah. Stretch. Yeah,
I mean, you get that?
Yeah, the go.
Come on. Yeah.
He was my favorite player. I had to have Stretch on all of my teams all the time.
Yeah, I mean, you are, and Stretch was kind of fire. I mean, Stretch would come out with like the Globetrotters pants. I mean, you're not losing an NBA Street game.
Yeah, he's blocking every shot at the rim. Stretch was amazing. I actually just recently re-downloaded NBA Street, and it's still as fun as when we were kids.
Yeah, the haters never expected me to bring up NBA Street, but I was going to do it. No, I appreciate everybody listening. It's been a really fun show. We got into some Viking stuff at the top, then went Twins, Wolves, and now we're going to hit the draft pretty hard. I mean, we started with JJ McCarthy, and that is where I'm going to start with Matt Miller. I mean, he covers the draft for ESPN. This is his primary role. He thinks about it at all times of the day. He is Matt Miller. He is at NFL Draft Scout on Twitter X. And he's a Kansas City guy. So I've known Matt for a minute. He used to be a Royals fan. We would talk sometimes, and he was at opening day, I believe, in Kansas City. Matt, are you there? And what was opening day like at Kauffman Stadium watching the Twins?
Alec, I'm here. Thank you for having me. Beautiful weather. Couldn't ask for a better day as far as that goes. Would have liked some more runs, especially late in the game. But, hey, we got that revenge on Sunday, so I'll take it. Getting 11 runs yesterday, I'll take that. But, as a Royals fan, you've covered the team. As a Royals fan, it's a great distraction over the summer with very low expectations. You can't even get your heart broke. It's fantastic.
No, it's great. We're going to hop right into it, and I'm just going to go at you pretty good here. What do you think of JJ McCarthy as a prospect?
Yeah, I like JJ as a prospect. I do. And, I was just at the Michigan Pro Day whenever that was, a week ago. I like him as a prospect. I do like him as a person. Like, I got a chance to talk to him. He was humble but confident and, super engaging. It was fun talking to him, which you do this as long as I've done this. You're going to run into players that are just not fun to talk to. So when you get the ones that are, it's noticeable. I like JJ. He plays with the chip on his shoulder. He's accurate. He's athletic. And you hear a lot, and I'm sure you hear this all the time. Well, they didn't ask him to do much. You know what they did ask him to do? They would ask that dude to come out of the cold on 3rd and 7 and make plays after not throwing the ball for like 20 minutes at times. He'd be like, hey, by the way, I know we've been running the ball for every down for the last quarter, but now we need you to throw the ball and save our tails. And he would do it. And so I think as much as we talk about they didn't ask him to carry the team, they didn't ask him to throw the ball a ton, that is all true. But they did ask him to save them. And we can look at the Ohio State game, the Alabama game. You could go back last year to the TCU game, which they ultimately lost, but he led this crazy comeback against TCU. So, I think it's tough to knock a guy for the things that he wasn't asked to do instead of looking at what he was asked to do and what he did in those moments.
Would you be surprised if he didn't go in the top 10?
I'd be shocked if he didn't go in the top 10. I'd be shocked if he doesn't go in the top 4.
Wow.
As of right now. And that's, have I been fooled this time of year? Absolutely. We all have, right? We all have. We've all, whether it was Malik Willis going 2 or Will Levis going top 15 or Mason Rudolph in the first round, like 13 years of this, I could run a list of times, we've been smoke screened with quarterbacks. But, with JJ, with all those other guys, every year you would have someone saying, hey, there's no way, right? And there's that voice of reason telling you there's no way. There's no one this year with JJ McCarthy saying, yeah, but, he shouldn't go there. He's not going to go there. It's very much, he's going to go there.
You've written a little bit about the Vikings and projected. I know you did a 7-round mock draft at ESPN. I was going to ask you about the process of that in a second. But, I mean, how confident are you that, or how much do you believe the Vikings want to trade up and take a quarterback? And I mean, what do you think the likelihood of that happening is?
I think it's very likely just because, man, a team doesn't trade up, that far in advance.
Sure.
To not take, why? I guess would be my thing of like, if you're going to go from 42 to 23 this early, why? Like, what is the advantage to do it now? Not knowing who's going to be on the board, not even having clearly defined needs that we could say, okay, well, the Vikings feel like they need to get into the 20s to get X. Because what the Vikings need is a quarterback, and a quarterback really, trumps everything else that they could possibly need. So why give up a second-round pick this early when you don't know who's going to be on the board? It seems really dangerous, and that's not really the mentality and the mindset of this front office. They're aggressive, but I wouldn't say they're certainly risky. So to add 23, to go with 11, this early to me feels like you wanted to get that done before pro days, so that you could be out there on the road saying, hey, we got 23 and 11. How high can we get? Is it 3? Is it 4? Is it 5? Like, where do we have to get really to get ahead of the New York Giants? But, to have those 2 first-round picks is certainly more valuable than saying, we got 11 or 42. What can that get us?
Yeah. Do people you talk to think Michael Penix has the potential or to go in the first round, or is a lock to go in the first? Like, where do you expect Michael Penix's? I guess what are the intervals in terms of where you think he might go?
Yeah, I think Penix is honestly the guy that there's the biggest variation between the public and teams.
Wow.
I haven't talked to one team that says, hey, you got to get him in your first round. Right? It doesn't happen, and it hasn't. After the Texas game, there was this dude's going early, but
Sure.
That was just, I think people got carried away a little bit because, then there was there was the game right after that. It was like, oh, never mind. He went from the best game of his life to the worst game of his life pretty quickly. So, I don't hear from teams that he's a first round guy. Some of that is the age. He's 24. Some of it's the injuries, 4 straight season-ending injuries at Washington. Some of it is probably predictive on the medicals. I haven't heard anything concrete on the medicals, but you do hear things like, there's a concern about the shoulder. You got 2 ACL tears in there, but nothing definitive as of yet about it. But it's definitely something that does gets bounced around, that he's more likely to be selected somewhere, I think, in the top half of the second round.
Gotcha. You did a 7-round mock draft at ESPN. We're talking to Matt Miller, by the way. This is Matt Miller of ESPN.
Yeah, thank you for your service, by the way. 7-round mock draft is insane, my brother.
I'm going to ask just from the top, like, how hard is it to do that?
It's hard. I mean, the hardest thing is not the making the picks, because, a big part of our job is being very organized, hyper organized, of here's my list of 500 players. Here's my list of team needs. Here's my list of schemes that each team runs, XYZ. Like, you try to be really on top of all that so that if you're ever asked about it, you're ready to go, basically. So that part of it is pretty easy, as long as you're organized, not that hard to do. The hard part is getting through round 3 and being like, oh crap, I wanted that guy to go higher than this. That happened to me this year. I'm just rocking and rolling and realized, oh man, I left Cole Bishop out.
Sure.
And I'm in round 4 and I'm like, dang it, that's a top 75 player for me. I got to start over.
It's like
or
Jenga.
You get through a couple rounds and a trade happens. The Chiefs trade. You're like, oh man, now I gotta, they traded L'Jarius Sneed. How does this affect things? So the hardest part is because it does take several days to work on the mock draft, and editors want it early, things like that.
Of course,
working on it probably a week before anyone sees it, and just hoping and praying that nothing happens that makes you have to go in and start over.
Max Fuller and Alec Lewis talking to Matt Miller of ESPN at NFL Draft Scout. That just shows your @name is at NFL Draft Scout. I mean, that just shows you ain't new to this. You're true to this, Matt. And again, thank you for your service. I know we're quarterback crazy here in the Twin Cities. That's all we can think about. JJ McCarthy, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, and all that stuff. But if the Vikings did the unthinkable and don't trade up and don't select a quarterback with that number 11 pick, who's the type of player do you think the Vikings would go after?
Oh, wow. I'm so like, they'll take a quarterback. It's just like everything goes there. I think you would have to, like, true, like, best player available. Byron Murphy from Texas would certainly make a lot of sense there. Mm-hmm. Being that super athletic 3 technique. I know they signed Jerry Tillery, but no disrespect to Jerry. He's more of like a journeyman type player.
Correct.
So having Murphy in there just messing things up in the middle would be, I think, a really good scheme fit. With Brian Flores, this would be a Christian Wilkins for him, essentially. And we saw how impactful Christian could be. So I think, that's where I would look. If Byron's off the board, could maybe see a corner there. Like, this might be where Terrion Arnold or Quinyon Mitchell.
I wondered if
kind
you were
of the top
Quinyon.
end of their range, but one of the top corners would probably be a fit as well.
Do you expect the top 10 to be mostly offensive, and then the 10 through 20 range, I feel like it could be a lot of defense. To me, if just in the event the Vikings aren't able to trade up and find their guy at quarterback, which I don't know what fans' reaction would be here, and
there might not be a Twin Cities for the Vikings to play home games.
I don't think it'd be phenomenal, but to be able to be picking in that range where some high level defensive guys, a couple we just talked about, are still going to be available. Like, how good of a defensive crop do you think exists in that range?
Really good. We might see one defensive player drafted in the top 10. That would be Dallas Turner going to Atlanta at 8. So, and the Jets aren't going to take a defensive player at 10. The Bears could, but it would be a surprise. So you're talking about like every defensive player in the draft, save for one, could be there. So, yeah, it would be like, what the hell are we doing? Are we really going with Sam Darnold and Jaron Hall at quarterback? Like, yeah, you got to have those conversations if this happens. But, you could say we're trying to build, the 85 Bears defense here, and you could take Byron Murphy, and then at 23, you could take like Nate Wiggins and have, D tackle and corner, probably the 2 most important positions on defense. You could have those locked up very cheaply for 5 years. So there isn't a lure to that, but you are very much committing to like the, tanking offensively and hoping that one of these quarterbacks next year becomes the guy.
Yeah, third year entering, as a GM and head coach entering their third season, riding on Sam Darnold seems like a bold bet, in my opinion. In your mock, you had the Vikings trading up for Drake May. Just give the people both your evaluation of Drake and why you think that fit makes sense.
Yeah, so I like Drake. I'll start with why it makes sense to me. When I look at Kevin O'Connell, I'm still like, I think about Rams offense, and I know everybody changes their own stuff, but it's like I think about the Rams offense. I could see him looking at May and thinking like, I can get some Sam Darnold stuff out of Drake May. The arm talent is there, the athleticism is there. He's still very moldable. Where I know O'Connell could come and be like, I can teach this guy to do all the things I want him to do. He's a great leader. He was a 2-time team captain. He's got great zip and velocity. He knows how to speed things up when he's pressured. He's definitely fearless with the ball. The issue is, you have to teach him, I think, when and where not to throw the ball. There are just times where his decision making is really scary at times. You also kind of love that he trusts his arm and he trusts his guys and he'll put it out there. I think mechanically he's going to have to clean some things up to where if that's the scenario, if they trade it for Drake May, I think we probably see Sam Darnold start the season just because the perfect situation for Drake is to learn. And that's not necessarily a knock on him. It's just, he is the 26 career starts. That's the fewest of any of the quarterbacks that we're talking about being drafted in the top 100 picks. He has the fewest starts. So that has to factor in. But the upside, the athletic upside, the quarterback upside is all really, really promising. It's all really, really attractive. It's just a matter of, can he get somewhere where he can learn and be taught how to do these things? I think Kevin O'Connell is a fantastic, obviously has the roots as a quarterback himself, some roots in the, McVay, Shanahan offense, that is a really, really attractive spot for Drake to be able to realize his potential. And also, let's not leave out the fact that you have Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison out there, which is every quarterback in this draft would love to have those two, as well as Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill protecting the edges. There's actually a really, really good framework here for a young quarterback. Probably better than any other spot where we're talking about quarterbacks being drafted early this year.
Matt Miller of ESPN. He's at NFL Draft Scout on Twitter. Last one for you, Matt. How willing do you think, in this scenario, you have the Patriots trading down to the Vikings. Just how willing do you think the Commanders or the Patriots would be to move down?
Probably not the Commanders, because I think the new owner wants a quarterback. But I think the Patriots more so than anyone else, just because, this is a regime coming in. There's no pressure on these guys to win right away, given how bad they've been the past few years. And you know that you're starting from scratch. I could very much see Elliott Wolf and Gerard Mayo saying, if we draft a quarterback at 3, we still don't have a left tackle. We still don't have any wide receivers. This is a bad spot for a rookie quarterback to come in. And are you really giving this rookie quarterback any chance of success if they have to play right away, given what we have in front of them, given what we have for them to throw to? It's not a good situation. So I think if you're New England, that's probably the highest spot where a team would be willing to trade down, just because the roster offensively is in such bad shape that you maybe wouldn't want to put a rookie quarterback behind center with what little assets they have.
That's Matt Miller of ESPN. He covers the draft as good as anybody. Has a 7-round mock draft on ESPN. That's the Lord's work, honestly. I'm doing a 7-rounder Vikings mock draft for tomorrow morning. That'll be up at The Athletic. And I'm looking at Houston Christian, Jalix Hunt. I'm all in. So props to you. Thank you for hopping on, and enjoy the summer around the Royals as you're fanboying over that team. But I appreciate it, Matt. Thanks for hopping on.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys. Thanks so much.
That is Matt Miller of ESPN. He is at NFL Draft Scout on Twitter. And I just wanted to pepper him. Yeah. Really. He
just pick his brain.
He likes JJ McCarthy. He said he'd be mildly surprised if he doesn't go in the top 4. Here we are with this stuff. It's wild. That is bold for a guy that, as I read earlier, it's a kind of somewhat of an incomplete evaluation. My name's Alec Lewis. I cover the Vikings for The Athletic. I'm alongside Max Fuller, who has done a phenomenal job today helping me, charting me through this journey that has been a 9 to noon without Paul Allen and Eric Nordquist. We're going to come back for about 12 minutes and just have some fun. As fun as we can have it to get out of here Monday. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you're having a great morning. 9 to noon on KFAN.
Rock duo the Black Keys are heading out on their International Players Tour, and you won't want to miss them when they take the stage at Target Center on Sunday, November 10th. Tickets go on sale this Friday at 10 a.m. For more info, head over to KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Fastest 3 hours of my life.
I know, right?
It's just unbelievable. I started with the April Fool's joke. I was going to say it 19 times just in case I needed to get through. I think I got to 17. Some of these comments are hilarious. Not sure what's going on. This kid's got 7 espressos. He was wrong. I had 9.
Someone said you were a combination of what? Dan Patrick, Michael K.
Yeah. The guy's just trolling me. My name's Alec Lewis. I cover the Vikings for The Athletic, and I've had the great honor. It's been a blast hosting for Paul Allen today, and alongside Max Fuller, who has really done a heck of a job helping me out and keeping me on the straight and narrow all day. So, Max, it's been a blast.
It's been so much fun, man.
I thought we'd end the show just talking about what icing is, and
we still haven't figured it out.
The rules of hockey.
The ins and outs of hockey.
No, we got like red circles on the ice and stuff.
I don't know. They always talk about the blue line and
correct.
Is there a red line? I don't know.
It's like our power play kill isn't good. I was like, how do you do it? Why don't you just? The puck's moving so fast. pass. How do you have a good power play kill?
That's what I'm like. I can barely even see it if I'm watching on TV. I saw they used to on the broadcast. They used to have a little circle around the puck,
right.
And a lot of hockey fans didn't like that. I loved it because I can't even keep track of that thing.
Right. No, I'm sure the text line's going to love the fact that they have a person in Minnesota hosting a radio show who knows nothing about hockey. No, it's honestly, it's been really fun. I thought what Matt Miller had to say about JJ McCarthy was pretty interesting. He was essentially like, I'm going to be surprised if he doesn't go in the top 4. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's...
And insinuated that he's one of the more clutch quarterbacks in the draft, talking about what they asked him to do on third down so often at Michigan.
And there's no question on the tape and the Bowling Green tape, the Maryland tape, that hopefully you guys don't watch because that would be crazy.
Yeah. If you want JJ McCarthy, stay away from that tape.
There are some really impressive throws. And like I said at the top, I mean, the thing that gets me is there's so many fastballs, and I wonder if he has the ability to kind of layer passes over the intermediate areas of the field. So that's the stuff to me, it's just going to be so interesting to see who the Vikings land. And I wrote this last week from Orlando, but my hope, and if I were, the Wilfs, it's you trust Kevin O'Connell for this moment. And if it doesn't work out, then you move on, you do what you have to do. But that is, you hired this guy and put faith in him as the head coach of your organization for a time like this. And if you're not going to show it at this point, then when would you? So that's kind of where I am with the draft. Like I said earlier, I'm doing a 7-round mock draft for the Vikings for tomorrow. It's not for the faint of heart. Hopefully it's fun for people to read, but I'm looking forward to that.
Obviously we're all obsessed with the first round here. What do you see the Vikings doing in the later rounds of the draft? Because I know it's not something that's super sexy to talk about, but it's necessary.
No, and like Robert Mays earlier said, the left guard was Blake Brandel. So part of me wonders, what if you do a little trade back action, get a little bit, and people aren't going to like this. Probably going to scream at it. It's the least happy they might be with me all day. But what if you could get a left guard starting caliber like in the second round with the potential trade back? And then part of me also thinks the quarterback evaluation is such a bet. It's such a crapshoot. What if we hedge our bet a little bit with an elite defensive tackle, an elite guard, and try to uplift the scaffolding around the quarterback that way? That's kind of part of the way that I've looked at it, and it'll be fun. But later in the draft, I think you're looking at cornerbacks. You're looking at the interior of the defensive line. You're looking at potentially a backup receiver. I could see them taking another flyer on a running back. They visited USC's Pro Day, Curtis Motkins, the run game coordinator, running backs coach. So a lot of options, and it's another draft where they could really use hits at the back end of it. Just guys who come out of nowhere, the Ivan Paces. It happens once in a blue moon, but the more the merrier, especially considering what happened their first go around in 2022. That's what I'd say.
Do you see the Vikings, at any chance of the Vikings going Washington Commanders on the bit and getting 2 quarterbacks?
That would be wild. It's hard for me to think they would do that, just given if they bring in a guy, I think it's a full-on commitment, top to bottom. We want to believe in this guy, give him confidence, surround him the right way. So I would be pretty surprised if they did that, especially just knowing how much Kevin O'Connell cares about putting that guy in the optimal situation. So that's what I'd say. It's a great question. Be very interesting. I guess this is kind of it.
This is it. You did it, man. How does it feel? First time
I feel like I just completed a group project and we're going to drink. No, I got stories to write, got interviews to transcribe. Max, really thank you a ton for the help today.
Oh, thanks for letting me come along with you on the ride, man. It was a lot of fun.
Makes it very fun. Thank you to Chad Abbott. Thank you to PA and Eric Nordquist for letting me do this. Been a blast. You guys will listen to Common and then Barrero on the Fan.
And we also got the women's basketball tournament on. No FOD today. We got that vaunted Iowa and LSU matchup later on tonight.
That's tonight.
Yes, sir.
Holy cow. All right. Know what I'm doing. Thank you, Max. Appreciate it. Was a blast. Alec Lewis, Vikings Right at the Athletic. Thank you guys for listening to 9 to Noon.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.